everyone, welcome to another video. Unfortunately, I am out of commission for a little bit, as you can see. Nothing major, just a little bit of an injury, but it does require a few weeks to heal. So I thought, why not make a gear video? And this one is for those interested in canyoning. I'm gonna go over all the gear I carry, from the pack to the clothes I wear, the harness, to my recovery kit, my first aid kit, and also what I use for filming the actual trips. So if you're interested, stick around and let's get started. So we'll get started with the pack. Now you'll notice if you watch my previous video, this is obviously a different pack. It is a rod cell pack. I think it's about 45 or so liters. It is a pack made specifically for canyoning, and one of the biggest reasons I upgraded to this pack is my previous one was made out of material, so it soaked up all the water and had extremely poor drainage, whereas obviously this one is made out of plastic, so it doesn't absorb any water and the drainage is excellent, which reduces a lot of weight when you're doing wet canyons. However, it does come with a lot of extra benefits. Firstly, in terms of safety, you've got releasable buckles on your shoulder straps, obviously, as well as your hip belt. So if you do need to ditch the pack for some reason quite quickly, it is easy to do so just by undoing those straps. It's got additional attachment points on the hip belt, which I use all the time to attach my rope when I am abseiling down. Plus, it's obviously got some daisy chains on the shoulder straps, which I find really useful. And it's got plenty of grab handles, one on the back here, you've got one on the front here, and you've also got a grab handle on the inside there. Going further into the inside, if I open it up, I am using one hand, so bear with me. It's got a lot of really useful attachment points, and it is absolutely huge, and it stays open nice and easy, as you can see. So it's really easy to reach in, grab gear, take or put gear in, put the rope back in, etc. So overall, probably one of my favorite upgrades this year or this season when it comes to canyoning. I've used it for about 10 canyons or 10 trips so far, and it's been excellent. Absolutely love this pack. Moving over to the rope and the rope bag. My rope bag has stayed the same. It does an excellent job with draining, protecting the rope, etc. It is a Imlay canyoning gear, so the large size, which is meant to hold 60 meters of 9mm rope. I have actually changed my rope to a Blue Water Canyon Extreme, I think it is. I still have the other rope, but this is kind of my more preferred rope. I've got 70 meters worth, so it still fits in here because it's, I think, 8.2 mils, so a little bit thinner, and it fits in here easily. The reason I like this rope is, firstly, it's a lot lighter than the previous rope. And secondly, it's, I think, a little bit tougher. So you've got a Dyneema core with a Technora sheath, which wears a lot better. So meaning, I guess it's safer, which is a big plus for me, but it's also a little bit easier to handle, being a little bit thinner. And again, it's lighter, which is like a big reason for my gear changes, is just to make things a little bit lighter. As well as the pack, the rope was the second thing to get changed to help make that happen. Now, the downside of this rope, and the reason I still have my second rope, is because it's thinner, it runs a lot faster through the descender. So it's not always suitable, especially if you're going with less experienced people. I still prefer to take the 9mm rope rather than the 8mm rope. Moving on down to the helmet, and this is actually a really recent upgrade. I've changed from a reasonably cheap and simple Decathlon helmet to this Petzl Sirocco, I think it's pronounced. The reason for the change, well, firstly, the other one, the latch on the back, that tightening ratchet started to break, so it kind of forced me to get a new helmet. And since I am going to continue to do canyoning and climbing, I thought I'd treat myself and get something a little bit fancier. This is, again, much lighter, and it's actually much more comfortable than the previous helmet, so a good upgrade. I still, as you can see, have a whistle attached, just girth hitched onto the chin strap of the helmet, so I can easily remove this if I'm, for example, rock climbing, but always take it with me when I'm canyoning. Moving on over to the right to my harness. This has been another change for the year. This is the Singing Rock harness. It is a dedicated canyoning harness. One of the reasons I've changed was my previous harness was wearing out, so the reason I got an actual canyoning harness, several reasons. Firstly, It's a little bit simpler, designed for canyoning, with a major thing being that your protection, so your straps here are protected by this kind of seat. So it is a bit more comfortable, but it does actually protect the vital bits of safety on the harness when you're sliding along rocks and things like that, which I'm definitely a big fan of. You can probably see here the wear on the harness, and it's wearing on this black plastic, which is replaceable, rather than the actual straps, which is great. I'll go around my harness quite quickly. So starting over to the left, I've got my basic figure 8 here, which I use for setting up contingency anchors. I don't really use this to actually abseil or go down on, although it is a nice backup for that. It's mainly used for my anchors. I've got my first carabiner here with a VT Prusik. So this is generally made for my backup, my third hand as they call it when I'm abseiling down, and then just a spare locker, spare carabiner here. It doesn't really serve a specific purpose, just if I need it for certain things. Moving around to the front, got a pretty standard carabiner here to hold my abseiling device. This is a Critter 2, so I've changed from the Piranha. This gives me a lot more options when I'm abseiling to actually adjust the friction on the rope on the actual device, which I really like, considering I mostly use a thinner rope now. So this together with that rope make a really good combination. Further on the front, this is my PAS or personal anchor system. It's a dynamic one, which I've changed from a static one, and that's simply attached again to another carabiner. So when I come close to anchors, I can easily unclip from the side and then clip onto an anchor. And because it's dynamic, again, it's just that little bit safer for me. Further around here to the right, I've got my personal kind of rescue stuff. I've got another VT Prusik. So this VT in combination with this VT, I can go up twin ropes. However, I mostly abseil on a single rope. This is why I would use this setup here. So this is a tib lock, and I've got a sling here. So together with that and just one of the VTs, or even you can actually use the Critter 2 with this hole here to set up a ascending system for yourself. The other thing I've got here on the right hand side is just a tri-locker. So again, it's no specific purpose, it's just in case I need it for something. Moving over to the right here, now this is stuff which I carry with me, but it lives inside the pack rather than the harness. So I've got the micro traction here with another pulley, so I can set up a 3-to-1 or potentially 6-to-1 if I'm using some carabiners, or if somebody else has got another setup like this. So for more complex rescue situations or hauling situations, I've got the ability to set up anchors here with a few malons, some webbing, or also use the fiddle stick. So again, these things live inside my pack and they come out if needed, but don't live on my harness. The other thing that lives inside my pack is this rope protector here. Nice and simple. Generally I use this if we're in a bit of a bigger group and a few people are going to be doing the same rappel, just to protect the rope over that edge. I'll use that rope protector. Further up here you can see a radio. So this is a 5-watt GME radio. It is waterproof. I think IPX67, so it is fine to use in wet canyons, but I do have this overboard radio harness, which is a chest harness, just for extra peace of mind to keep it dry, especially because once the speaker gets wet, you lose about half the volume, which is quite annoying. But also being on a chest strap, it keeps it obviously on your chest, so very hands-free, very simple to get to. It's not kind of swinging around anywhere on shoulder straps or anything like that, so I actually find that quite useful just as a chest strap itself to hold the radio. And further across here, this is my tub. So previously I did use dry bags exclusively, especially one big black dry bag, but it was quite fiddly, and I tried to use this tub here. This is actually a specific canyoning one, and I've actually really started to like it. It actually works extremely well. I just chuck it in the bottom of the pack, very easy to get gear in and out of. It's got a lot of attachment points if you want, so on the actual tub here or on the lid if you're worried about it falling outside of your pack or whatever. But it is a nice solid bit of waterproofing, which also protects your gear tool point. So actually a big fan of this. My other bit of waterproofing, which I'll keep spare batteries, memory cards inside the top pocket of the pack there, rather than inside this tub, is this overboard waterproof case. So dry bags for me, you can see I have a dry bag here. That's just to keep the first aid kit, which I'll get to shortly, together. But the first aid kit actually lives inside the tub here. However, this I've found to be completely waterproof so far anyway. So I have my, like I mentioned, batteries, memory cards, sometimes my phone in there as well. And that's, again, inside the top pocket of my pack to make it easy to reach. Going over to my cameras next. So my main camera when out canyoning is the GoPro 10. I have recently gotten the Insta360 1X2, which I've used on one trip so far, I think. I did have the lens protector on it, the Pro one, that came with the kit. Obviously I scratched it pretty much straight away, so it hasn't come with me on any other trips. I'm still kind of fiddling around with it, see if I'd like to use it, or if it's just a little bit too much of a hassle, but definitely my main go-to, which I really like and will continue to use, is the GoPro 10. Let's head on up to the first aid kit. So my first aid kit is pretty simple. I've got a snake bandage in there. I've got a elastic bandage in there, which I've recently used one since I did my ankle on a canyoning trip. I've got a little tiny pocket knife in there, some basic anti-inflammatories, a space blanket, Texta, just really simple stuff. Enough to get you by. My main first aid is the PLB beacon and also the Garmin InReach Mini, which I got a couple of months ago and I've actually been quite a big fan of. All those kind of non-emergency communications have been quite useful. Notifying my wife or my friends, you know, that a trip's finished or we're here, this is our expected ETA if we're running a little bit late. Obviously, kind of when little things happen, they don't justify a full PLB response. This thing is excellent. However, I would still always carry a PLB. So this thing for me won't replace the PLB. I know it does for a lot of people, but I'm still gonna carry the PLB. And I can do a whole separate video if you wanna know why and a bit of a review, etc. But yeah, for me, I will always carry two. Let's head on back over to the top. So my wetsuit here, it's a little bit hard to get to, but it is a 2-3 wetsuit, full length, so sleeves for the arms and the legs. Over to the right of the wetsuit, I've got tights. So these are about 1 to 2 millimeters thick. These are actually for my surf ski, but they go underneath the wetsuit if needed. And this is a top. So again, 1 to 2 millimeters. It goes underneath the wetsuit if I need it. Both are fleece lined, so they just add that little bit of extra warmth and allow me to layer, you know, put layers on or take layers off depending how hot it is or how cold it is. So I find this system works really well rather than just having a thicker wetsuit. So kind of a medium thickness or light thickness wetsuit, and then this layering system for me works quite well with the addition of potential just wetsuit booties. So keep your feet that little bit warmer, which is a little bit nicer. Moving to the right, I'll just show you my gloves first. These are just gloves from Bunnings, which is a hardware store here in Australia. They're about 30 bucks, absolutely nothing special. They do a great job for canyoning. They're a little bit thin if you're gonna abseil on the 8mm rope in dry conditions. But in terms of canyoning, they're fantastic. Don't hold water, they stay nice and tight, and they're cheap. So I'm sure you can see already after a few trips they are starting to wear. They've probably gone on about 15 trips or so, but they're not going to be too expensive to replace. Moving up, this is just a really simple, cheap jacket. It's just pretty much a plastic jacket, so as cheap as you can go, 10 or 15 bucks from a sports store. It serves two purposes. Firstly, if I'm in a bit of a dry canyon and I'm going to abseil next to a waterfall, I can put that on, stay a little bit drier. Secondly, to retain heat. So because it is pretty much just pure plastic, does not breathe well at all. So it helps keep the heat in and the wind away. So there's no reason this is really fluoro. This is just a jacket that I had laying around. And yeah, take it with me on every single trip, and definitely a good thing to have. Moving across to the right a little bit more. So these clothing items live inside my tub. Usually the jacket does too until I need it. If it gets a little bit wet, then it just lives inside the pack, but until then, lives inside the tub. This is kind of the clothes I have in case of an emergency more so. This is merino wool, so quite thick merino wool. I've got a top and I've got tights and a beanie. So in case something happens and we're going to be spending a lot longer inside of the canyon, potentially spending the night inside the canyon, I've got a very dry and quite warm set of clothes to change into. Get outside of the wetsuit and into some dry clothes. The other thing which I want to use or add to my first aid kit, which I don't have at the moment, is a lighter to be able to start a fire if we're going to be staying overnight. So I'll probably do that as soon as I end this video. But guys, that's about it. That's my canyoning kit for this year anyway. Hopefully in a year's time, I'm still canyoning and I'll make another update video. If you want to know any more info on the kit below, more detailed information on the harness or the pack or the first aid kit or the cameras or whatever, leave it down in the comments if you have any questions. Likewise, if you're an experienced canyoner, or just a canyoner anyway, and you've got any advice to use this kit, that kit, why this works, why that doesn't work, leave it down below. Love to hear about all that stuff. As always though, thank you so much for watching and hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.